Okay, so today we're here with Dr. Felicity Keough of Keough Chiropractic in St. Charles, Missouri, and she's been my doctor for quite a few years, and we're doing a series on many topics, and one of the topics we're talking about today is autoimmune disease. And as Dr. Keough, you know, you were the first person to say you've got some autoimmunity going on here and we need to look into that. So I am in remission now under the care of Dr. Keough, which is why we're doing this video. Dr. Keough, I think a lot of us are struggling with autoimmune disease and we don't know it. We're going from doctor to doctor to doctor, and some of our blood work is within normal limits, and so we think we're okay, and some of our tests are not so good and some are okay, and we're struggling with all these symptoms and we don't know what to do with it, and we feel like it's our lot in life, or maybe this phase in life. I kind of felt like that, you know, our children are grown empty nesters this particular phase in life. I felt like, well, maybe this is just my body deteriorating and this is what it's supposed to look like, right? But it's not, and I have an autoimmune disease, and I would really like to know more from you about what autoimmune disease is. What's happening to our body?
Autoimmune disease is so prevalent. There's so many people every year. That number is growing and growing and growing, that people are being diagnosed with autoimmune conditions. They don't 100% know why we get autoimmune disease. There's a lot of speculation, but ultimately it can be boiled down to too much inflammation in the body, like where the body is just inflamed. And we all hear about inflammation. It's a buzzword. Everybody knows inflammation is, you know, the root cause of all kinds of chronic health disorders. But certain people have different areas of the body that are they're more prone to becoming, you know, an autoimmune tissue. For example, most women who have hypothyroid have an autoimmune thyroid disorder called Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's thyroiditis is what it's called. And 80% of the women diagnosed with hypothyroid actually have Hashimoto's.
Okay, that's what I had.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I didn't even have wrist for a while. I was so inflamed, and it was attacking my joints, and so
Yes.
I could barely get out of bed in the morning, and it took me 10 minutes to walk to the bathroom, and whenever I would try to clean myself, it felt like my elbow was going to break. So it was just terrible, attacking my joints.
Yeah. Well, and that's what happens. One tissue will become diseased with an autoimmune condition, which basically means self-destruction. It's where your body starts to attack your certain glands. And it's doing that as a protective mechanism. It doesn't seem like it, but everything your body does is in order to try to protect you, which again does not seem like your body would be protecting you if it was attacking organs. But that's what autoimmunity is. It's where the immune system is in such an overdrive that eventually it starts to go in and break down its own tissue. So a lot of people who have one autoimmune disease, like Hashimoto's, can easily develop multiple autoimmune conditions, you know, where it starts to attack the joints. MS is an autoimmune condition, and that's autoimmunity of the brain tissue. Endometriosis, that's an autoimmune condition of the uterine lining. Let's see, there's so many. There's so many different autoimmune conditions. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmunity of the pancreas.
If it's so prevalent, which it is, why is it so difficult to get diagnosed? Because from my research, I think it's somewhere between 6 to 10 years is common to even receive a diagnosis. So we feel in that time that we're going crazy, like we know something's wrong with our body, but we don't know what to do about it. So why is that?
Well, I will tell you, I have an acquaintance who is an endocrinologist, and he says the reason that doctors don't run the antibodies, the thyroid antibodies that have to be ran to diagnose Hashimoto's, is because there's no prescription for those. And that was his words. He told me that, and I thought, wow, that's incredible. So again, it's not that the doctors are bad people. It's just that they are so handcuffed by what insurance will and won't pay for. So if there's no prescription for an autoimmune disease, like Hashimoto's, for example, which there isn't, they will not run those markers. So these women or men too, they go through years of just the struggle of having this autoimmune condition, and so many times it's years before they get that, like you said, that diagnosis. And usually it's when they come to a functional medicine doctor that will run all of that.
Yeah. Well, and I also was going from doctor to doctor, right? So I had a gastroenterologist, a rheumatologist, my regular practitioner, and they were each independently looking for specific symptoms and trying to treat those specific symptoms, but the underlying issue was the autoimmune disorder, which is what was not being treated.
Correct.
So they say you cannot be healed from autoimmune disease, and I understand that, but I am in remission right now. I just got more markers back yesterday that said, kudos, you're still in remission, and it's been quite a few months now. So how does what behaviors do we do? What's the mindset to get to a place of remission? I know it's different for everyone,
right,
but what are some general things that you can think of that someone that says, I recognize that I'm maybe struggling with autoimmune disease, so besides coming to you to get diagnosed, which is really important, a diagnosis is helpful.
Yes.
So outside of the diagnosis, what are some just across the board things that you would say to anyone that has autoimmune disease?
Well, like we said initially, inflammation is the number one reason that people are dealing with these chronic health disorders and pain and sickness and autoimmune conditions. So living a lifestyle that promotes lower inflammation, and that a lot of that's going to be diet related. So if you can consume a more plant-based, anti-inflammatory type diet, that's going to be one really important thing that everyone can do right now, without even coming to a doctor, functional doctor, medical doctor. But so much of it for me is what we put into our body, like what we consume on a daily basis, because that's what our body's made up of. There's other things in our lifestyle that we can also do, stress management and exercise and making sure we're getting enough water, but eating an anti-inflammatory diet is going to be something that everyone could start doing today.
Okay, and we're going to talk about gut health at some point,
Yes.
But that is the big thing, I guess, that I did really was you gave me this list it's an anti-inflammatory grocery list. It's not even a diet, it's just an anti-inflammatory grocery list. And I really just stopped eating flour and sugar, and I wasn't trying to lose weight. I was trying to be able to walk to the bathroom when I got out of bed in the morning, and I was trying to be able to wear a bracelet, and develop some form of wrist. And the weight just fell off, and that's great, and that's what people see, but that's not the benefit for me. The benefit is I can walk. My joints are free. I can move my fingers and my elbows and my ankles, and
Your function came back.
yeah, with just food.
Sugar and flour, removing, and those, the standard American diet, that's the bulk of it, it's sugar and flour, unfortunately. And I think that is a big reason why so many Americans are so sick. And we're one of the sickest nations in the world, truly. So that's something that you can start with today, is changing the way you eat. And like you did, just take out one thing, maybe it's soda, maybe it's sugar, working on kind of just making small steps is going to lead to huge changes in the end.
Okay, so get diagnosed.
Important.
Look at all your markers.
Yes.
So see a functional health doctor. If you're in the St. Louis, St. Charles area, you can see Dr. Keough. She is fabulous. And we also have some additional resources and assessments in the description of this video. So feel free to go there and check those out. And Dr. Keough, thank you for visiting with us once again. Always appreciate seeing you.